Welcome to the Guntersville Grassroots Podcast presented by Rec Lending. Rec Lending is a broker of loans for sorts, for boats and RVs and such like that. We had them on a podcast not long ago. If you hadn't heard that one, go back and check it out. If you're in the market for a boat or you bought a boat in the last few years and you want to see if you can get a lower interest rate, be sure and give those guys a call. You can get their information at reclending.com and be sure and tell them that Pat sent you. Today's March the 20th. It's the first day of spring. Mother Nature seems to have forgotten that. Yesterday it felt like spring. It was nice and warm and 75 to 80. And today it's 46 degrees and windy and raining. So welcome to March in Alabama. If you don't like the weather, hang around for a day or two and it'll be different. Trey is... Actually, I don't know where Trey is. Trey, I think, did not make the cut at the Toyota Series on Chickamauga, so is probably on his way to the Classic. I believe he said he was going there next. We're not going to have him this week. We're just going to do a little lake update today. Things have changed. The Alabama Bass Trail was last weekend, and if you haven't seen the results from that, it was kind of ridiculous. They just really caught them pretty good considering the rain and weather and mud. And so today we're going to get Mike Carter on and see if he can give us a little more information on what the lake's like. I know he's been out some this week fishing, so he should have a lot more information than those of us that have been at work every day. This next week is the Sealy Outdoors Big Bass Splash. It's the 28th, 29th, and 30th, I believe, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It is a fun event. It's a great event. It's a great chance to win a little money. If you're like me, I get to go fishing for 3 days in a row, and for whatever reason, my wife doesn't complain about me fishing 3 days in a row for that. So I fish it every year, whether I win any money or not. But it's a great opportunity. You don't have to catch five that weigh 29 pounds. You can catch one 5 or 6 pounder and get your money back. And there's a lot of money to be won by everybody. It's a really fun event. So let me see if I can get Captain Mike Carter on here to talk fishing, and maybe he'll give us some tips that'll help us catch a big one next week. For the third or fourth time in 3 or 4 years, I have got my friend Mike Carter on here with us. Mike's a guide on Guntersville and Chickamauga and probably some other places. He's been around for a minute. So, Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The main purpose in calling you is I always introduce and say, hey, I don't really know much about what's going on the lake, but I try to bring somebody in that does. So you're my guy today. So
you're in desperate mode then, aren't you?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I mean, you're the only man I know that can catch a fish on an echo, but
on any lake.
On any lake, doesn't matter where he goes. I saw a picture you posted the other day, and it had that echo in his mouth. And I'm like, well, there it is. I believe him.
Yeah. So exactly. Everything we caught that was on Pickwick Lake, and everything we caught that day was on echo. It was a blast. Caught some good fish too, nice ones.
So you mentioned before we started recording, I did not know that was a Pickwick, but you mentioned, I think you'd been to Chickamauga today and said it wasn't very crowded. The only people left were the ones that made the cut in the Toyota Series.
Yeah. You didn't see anybody out there today. That wind was cold, man. It was cold. It looked like, it was almost like it dropped about 20 degrees from the time we put in the water. Of course, we just did crappie trip today, and it was miserable trying to fish for crappie with 20, 30 mile an hour winds out of the north.
And little bitty lightweight jigs.
It wasn't fun, and these guys were not prepared for that kind of weather at all. So,
well,
yeah.
I said on my little opener, I said, well, if you don't like the weather in Alabama, hang around for a day or two in March, and you'll get several. Because yesterday it was windy yesterday, but it was beautiful.
Oh yeah. It's always best if you're going fishing in the South. Go ahead and have your summer clothes on, but have the winter clothes on standby because it's going to change. So
absolutely,
it could either change from winter to summer real quick or summer to winter real quick.
Before we get on to Guntersville, I've got one question about Chickamauga that I would just like your opinion on. I think I don't know how many 10 pounders they weighed in the first 2 days in that thing. I know live scope is a factor there, but why does Chick grow more 10 pounders than Guntersville?
I couldn't answer that.
No, okay. I just wondered if you had an opinion.
Yeah, well, the only reason I could think of, people have figured out this live scope stuff, and they don't even look for the smaller fish anymore. They look for these big fish chasing these schools of shad around. And so many people, especially this younger generation, is doing that live scope deal. And whether they're using little plastics or big glide baits with this live scope, they're just singling out these larger fish now. And with the same way the Guntersville now, and Guntersville really starting to show off. I mean, look at what the ABT did this past weekend.
Oh, it was crazy.
ABT, yeah, they had 58 bags over 20 pounds weighed in. I mean, it's unbelievable what
post frontal. I mean, after that big storm blew in and everything muddied up, and that was one on a rattle trap, my chatterbait. First and second.
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is nice to hear that
Exactly.
can still happen. But I know there was some scopers in the top 10 for sure, um, but yeah, it was apparently, a lot of their live stuff. I watched a little bit of that before I went to church on Sunday, and a lot of their live stuff, you had folks that were up there in 3, 4, 5 foot of water or less, throwing fishing old
Yep.
school, I guess you could say.
So
So,
that's why we're catching them right now. We're catching them up shallow. And I mean, there's still a lot of fish out there in that 8 and 10 foot deep I mean, that's still consistent also. What the trips I had all last week, we would move up shallow, 2 to 4 feet, and sometimes we go back out that 8 and 10 foot depth and throwing big 1 ounce traps out there, but just getting up shallow with chatterbaits and your favorite bait, the echo. We did real good on that echo over the weekend. So that's my bait this time of year. I love throwing that bait this time of year.
oh, I know you do. And how deep's that thing run?
You can get it down to about 4 or 5 feet, but usually it just depends. Most of the time when I'm fishing shallow. We had a trip a couple weeks ago, and we were throwing that thing, I mean, just right up against the bank, and we reached a crawfish color echo and just throw it right up against the bank in about a foot or two of water, having to hold your rod up to reel it. And they were eating that thing. So, most of the time, 2 to 3 feet is about the most consistent depth, but you can get it to go down to 4 or 5 feet deep.
Yeah.
And I've tried to tell you for the
I,
last couple of years, if you ever want to go, I would be glad to show you how to catch one
I
on it.
know we're gonna have to do that. Okay, we're just
Yeah.
gonna have to. So you mentioned 8 to 10 foot and 3 or 4 foot, and are you
Yeah.
when you're doing that, are you still catching a lot of fish out on the river, like on the backside of the river bars and bouncing back and forth, or are you getting closer to the banks when you're doing it right now?
I'm basically on the backside of the river bars,
Yeah,
and we even caught some on a bull wake last weekend. I know you've seen those
I
pictures,
did see that. Yeah,
and yeah, and it's funny how I planned that out. I told a good friend that was with me, and he'll fish with me occasionally, and I told him, I said, we're going to fish deep grass first, then we're going to move up, real shallow because it's going to be up in the mid 70s that day. And I knew with the mid 70s and a real light breeze, those fish would get active real shallow. And we were on river bars. And I pulled up to a place I knew where some thicker grass was. And I probably didn't fish, probably about 5 minutes. And I caught that big one I had. And while I was getting my bait situated back out, I turned around and John had one just explode on his, and all that happened right there in just a few minutes time, and it was 2 feet of water.
right, right. So I mean, but you were on the main lake. You weren't up in a
I was,
pocket. You were still out there. Do you think a lot of those fish stay out there? I mean, I've always thought a lot of them spawn out there, but do you think a lot of them
I've
stay?
seen beds out there. I've seen beds out there before, but I don't think they consistently spawn out there because of the current. But they're out there all year long. I mean, they don't leave those river bars all winter. Most time winter time you can't get them up shallow unless you have those 60, 70 degree days, in the winter. And in the middle of the day, you can move out there and be able to catch them up shallow. But those fish stay out on those river bars all year.
Right, right.
All the fish. They talk about when the fish spawn. We have fish that come in and spawn in April, May, and even June. But those fish will stay out there in that 8 and 10 foot of grass all year. That's just their home.
Right, and they don't all go to spawn on the bank at the same time.
No,
So,
no, no,
what have you haven't seen any spawning activity yet?
no, no, no. I do. We still that's catching those fish up in 2 and 3 feet of water. There's a reason why they're up in that 2 and 3 feet of water. They're wanting to come up there and get ready.
Hmm.
And I caught 12 pounder I caught several years back, and it was in 2 feet of water, March the 13th.
Oh yeah,
So there's a reason why that big fish is up there shallow like that.
it seems like sometime in February when you get that warm week that we always get there for a few days, that there's always a wave of them that pulls up in the dirt, and then it gets cold again, and then it gets hot again. They go back and
Yeah,
forth.
exactly.
I was just interested, because I mean, the shallow is relative, right? You can be sitting in 25 foot of water throwing to 2 on Guntersville.
Oh yeah,
and
exactly.
and you can be in the back of a pocket and be 300 yards from 6 foot of water. It's just
Yep.
and there's probably fish in all of those, but I just always like other people's opinions on how are you up in the pockets or are you still on the main lake? And I see you
Yeah.
fishing enough. I know a lot of what you do, but I'm just asking you questions. So I mean, we fish a
Yeah.
lot of the same
Yeah.
same areas, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, the river bars is just always more consistent for me because, like I say, I'll move up shallow, and if they're not up shallow, I'll move out there deep. And I always know that once that sun comes out and I get that 70+ degree temperature outside, and I'll move up shallow and I'll catch those fish. They'll be up on shallow in those bars.
mhm.
And the pockets are fine, but the pockets are so hard to judge because of the floating eelgrass. You do know we have floating eelgrass
Yeah,
in
I've heard
Pennsylvania,
of it.
right?
I heard that was a thing.
I've heard of it, yeah. It's always like I tell all my clients all the time, there's the three main the three main cliches of Lake Guntersville is throw it out, reel it in, and clean it off. So
That's that's very
that'd be a good
factual.
shirt for you to make. Throw it out, reel it in, clean it off.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you said you'd been out in the wind there a day or two ago when it was brutal.
Oh man, horrible. Yeah, we was out there 2 days ago. Well, it's yesterday actually, and then 2 days ago, and their wind was it's massive. Just big swells out in the river, and it was hard to fish those river bars. But you still, it was funny. We still caught fish. All you got to do is just get on those river bars, just let the wind blow you up or down, whichever way the wind direction is going. Even if it's swelling and white capping, just let it blow you down through there and start fishing.
Good old
Still
southwest
will
wind.
catch fish. Yeah, and
What'd the
get
water
waves
look
come over
like?
the deck every now and then, but you still catch them.
What the water look like? Was it dirty or was it?
Yeah, it's stained up dirty. Yeah, there's the east side of the river was a lot more stained than the west side of the river was. The west side it's real good, especially from Goose Pond down. It's got a good color to it, but on the east side of the river, all that east side from Comer all the way down past South Saudi is just real stained up right now.
Because of the wind direction blowing in there on it, you guess?
Yeah, the wind direction been hitting that side,
Yeah.
for the last few weeks now. So.
And it will until it stops, and then we won't have wind
Oh
for a
yeah,
month. Every
exactly,
time you go, it'll be slick and time to throw a dinger or something out there, or a bullwhip,
exactly. Yeah,
or a bullwhip.
yeah.
So,
Or a bull weight.
oh,
Exactly. That's my bait right there now.
I'm a believer, and I know you are. So, what kind of water temps you see yesterday or a couple days ago?
It's average. We had water temperature up in the 60s there for a while, and here a couple of days ago was upper 50s, 56, 57 degrees.
Yeah, the
And
current's pretty strong
today
too, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Your current's real strong because of all that rain we had had. All majority of the rain went through North Alabama, to North Tennessee. So we're getting all that runoff from that.
Yeah,
Chickamauga actually went from being 5 or 6 feet down to full pool, and then all of a sudden now it's back down 3 feet down.
that
So
makes
they
fishing
they
fun, doesn't
dumped
it?
a lot of water, and you're gonna see some current for a long time. So
And Guntersville it was last Friday I went and it was as low as I've ever seen it. Like that, and I grew up around here and I'm almost 50, so I mean like it was as low as it gets. And
yeah.
and then I was around there one day this week and it looked almost full pool, which again we had all that rain. But
Yeah.
has it come back down or is it holding in there pretty steady?
It come down a little bit yesterday. It was down probably, I don't know, 10 inches, maybe close to a foot yesterday. But you could tell it had come down some. It's going to fluctuate up down a lot with all that water they got coming down. So this right now they're going to fluctuate with it a lot. I would assume they'll probably drop it on down some more.
Maybe
Try to
somewhere
get
about
ready for some
mid-April
more
they
rain
normally
coming
put
in.
the plug in and leave it, but depending hurricane winds and rains and that kind of stuff. But
Exactly. Exactly.
I'd like to see it get stable for a little while. The fish would because they're ready to do their thing. The trees say they're ready to do their thing. The blooms are starting to show on the bank. And,
Yep.
just need another week of 70. So next week's the Big Bass Splash. I know you can't fish it, but I know you're familiar with it. 3 days. I don't know how many people, 2,000 or 3,000 probably. What's the big fish going to be?
8 plus.
8 plus. Yeah. You think it'll make 10 this time? We've seen a
I
couple,
don't know.
but not many.
We've had a lot of pressure on this lake the last couple of weeks. I don't know if it'll make 10 or not.
That's changed.
I mean,
What kind of numbers are you seeing when you're on? I mean, obviously, take out the days that the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour, but like on a day that you can actually go fish, what are you catching 15 or 20, 50? What kind of?
Yeah, it's definitely 15 to 20 average because, like I say, I throw a lot of these big traps and the weights, the big chatterbaits and stuff, and I could probably get down to more numbers if I wanted to tone down a little bit. And one thing I wish I'd had done the last few days is went upriver. When we got this current and wind and everything, I love fishing that echo upriver, fishing the mouse creeks. And these fish were getting those creek mouse, getting out of that, getting the current eddies, getting away from the main part of the current. And man, you can really put the numbers in the boat when you're up there. It's just a lot of fun.
You mean like
Anywhere
the
from
mouths of like Mud and Town and Crow and all those kind of deals, like that kind of stuff?
yeah,
Yeah.
all those little ditches up through there. The smaller ditches are actually the more productive ones. Your larger creeks don't produce as good as those small ditches do. Just there's something about the current eddies on the little small ditches, and yeah, man, we just I do it during the fall. During the fall is a lot of fun, and even with the water down. But this time of year, when you got all that current, you can go up there and catch a lot of fish. But it's hard for me to go up there and do that when I know I can get down there at 8 and 10, 6, 8, 10 foot grass and catch the kind of quality fish I'm catching down here also.
Right.
So
Right. No, no, I
but
get
that's
that.
just another pattern. That's you get away from everybody when you do that also, especially on weekends. You go up there and fish those cuts on the weekend and use those square bills, and man, it's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun to do.
Are you catching anything on anything not moving, or are we strictly still chatterbaits, traps, crankbait type stuff? Or I mean, you catch anything on a jig or anything like that anywhere else yet?
No, I haven't tried. I used to a lot, especially back when I tournament fished, and yeah, I used to throw a jig a lot, but I don't. I haven't even tried a jig this time of year yet. I love doing that. I just, right now, as long as I'm catching them out there, I'm gonna stay out there,
Oh, yeah. It
and I'll
does
catch them
seem.
out there all the way to summer.
Oh, well, they live there, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly,
uh,
exactly.
I mean, it does seem funny that when the water's cold, you throw something moving, and when the water gets warm, you throw a wacky rig dinger or something. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like once the water gets up there around mid-60s, the fish go, I'm not going to chase that anymore. I'm just going to eat that little worm. So, um,
yeah. We
so
actually had one day we spent a couple hours swimming a jig, one of the royal red jigs, choo-choo lure jigs, and we put some of that orange thump gel on the trailer, and we went up real shallow throwing primrose, and we caught some just solid quality fish doing that. And we was only trying to get out of the wind when we did that, but they were in that primrose. We
what?
did real good in that.
Just been since the water got up.
Yeah, yeah. So the water got up.
Yeah, yeah. That's a fun bite when it happens. Do you throw that on braid
It
or
is.
fluoro, or how do you do that?
No, 20-pound fluorocarbon, Vicious Pro Elite fluorocarbon.
20-pound fluorocarbon. So,
Yeah,
um,
only time I use braid is if I'm punching or throwing a frog, and I don't. I try to do the least amount of punching as possible, unless I just got somebody who wants me to show them some tournament fish. For during the fall, I will do some punching. But
it's a good way
other
to
than that,
torture
I don't.
somebody if you want to let them eat some gnats.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a slow process, and billions of gnats are getting your face. So
Right. It's fun. It's fun when one pulls that string, but it sure is. It's fun catching them. It sucks looking for them.
exactly, exactly.
So you're still trapping and chatterbaiting, and you think is that going to hold steady for a while? Do you think you think we're going to have to slow it down here in the next week or two?
No, it's going to hold steady all the way up through April. I'll catch them on those traps and chatterbaits all the way in April, even sometimes first part of May. I'll still get into them because that grass is out there 12, 14 feet.
Oh,
And
absolutely, the eelgrass for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and only thing you do is just change the colors with your judging by the clarity of the water and your sunshine and clouds or whatever. You just change the color of what you're using, 3/4 1 ounce traps, and just fish that deep grass. We'll catch, like I say, we'll catch them all the way up into May doing that.
So that was my next question on color, and I know. Yeah, are you primarily red right now, or what do you base that on the water? Or I mean, tell me your formula for that, if you will.
I had a gentleman text me the other day, asked me what color am I throwing. I told him, I said it's pink with purple and red ribbons on it. So, and my wife, she said, don't forget to add sparkles. I said, oh yeah, I forgot
Got to have the
sparkles.
sparkles. Got to have the sparkles.
No, the crawfish, you can't go wrong with the red crawfish this time of year. You just sometimes the darker crawfish color is better than the bright crawfish color. But that goes back to depending on what your wind is doing. I'm sorry, your water clarity is doing. The chartreuse shiner color, it's just plain chartreuse orange belly with a silver back. That's always good, and the royal reds are always good. So you just kind of just judge it by the water clarity and the sunshine, whatever you got going on.
Yeah. So when the sun's out, you like the reds or the shaddy type colors more?
I like the shad color when the sun's out.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then in dirtier, darker water, you're more of the
Yeah.
red guy or the chartreuse, maybe.
Exactly.
But
The chartreuse, yeah.
well, I'd call
And
it.
then as the water starts clearing up a little bit, I'll go to more of the ghost type colors, the more shad transparent type colors.
Yeah, the old natural color. I had one of them.
Yeah.
One thing, I think there used to be a rattletrap color called Ghost that was way back. That was almost clear, and the dadgum drum loved that thing.
Oh, yeah, they do.
I can't tell you why.
Bass love it too, but the drum love it also.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was. I remember being in my teenager years and throwing one of them somewhere in Roseberry, and I think I caught more drum and catfish on it than I did anything.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
The grass is a little different. Then, are you seeing just eelgrass out there? Or are you seeing some milfoil and hydrilla left over, or probably hydrilla? But I mean, what are you seeing out there in the areas you're fishing?
A lot of hydrilla.
Are
I'm
you?
seeing a lot of hydrilla out there, yes,
That's
and of
good.
course the eelgrass. Yeah, that's a you and another thing, people tell me about all the eelgrass I see floating everywhere. We'll just keep moving around and get on the opposite end of the lake that the wind's blowing into, and you can get out of it. You're still going to see it, but at least you can get out of the thicker patches of it.
And you can come back an
But
hour
right
later
now,
and it may be gone where you were. So
yeah, yeah, and don't go with the current. Go against the current. Because the current's going to pull the eelgrass down, and you just go against the current. It's a lot of times the wind's blowing real hard. You don't have a choice but to go that direction. But if it's on one side, if it's on the east side of the lake, go to the west side. If it's on the west side of the lake, go to the east side.
mm-hmm.
Just try to get away from
Well,
it.
the east side's been hard to fish for a while.
It has.
With
It
that
has. It's
wind
been
blowing.
miserable.
But,
And that's why I think it has a big part to do with the how well the fishery has gotten now. Because this eelgrass is preventing a lot of people from fishing the areas they want to fish, and even though it's frustrating, look at how the fish have just populated.
I 100%
It,
agree with that because it really has. It makes some areas unfishable sometimes for days. So
yeah,
it's like they get a break, and without that they wouldn't get a break because I mean, if it's pretty
you're right.
outside and it's after March the 1st until about June, there are people every day everywhere. So
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And as bad as a thorn that is in our side to try to fish places with that stuff, it also helps it because, like you said, it gives them a break. And that ABT, like we were talking about earlier, that ABT is a perfect example of when you got 58 bags over 20 pounds. That's saying something about a lake when you get that many bags over 20 pounds.
that's a lot.
So,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's after the Freedom tournament the weekend before that had
uh
52, I think.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
and I mean it's really Guntersville has ebbs and flowed and had peaks and valleys, and we're definitely, I don't know if we're at the peak, but maybe not, but it's definitely on the upswing right now. She's really looking good out there. Hopefully we're able to continue those years of good spawns and keep it going that way. Do you think
it's looking great.
are you catching more fish out of the hydrilla than the eelgrass, or does it matter? Is it just a cover in water? Do you run into them? Are they moving around on you? How's that work?
We catch a lot of fish, just the eelgrass itself. But if you find that mixture of hydrilla, there's still a lot of old hydrilla left over that hasn't left yet. This flood may have, it may,
Yeah.
a lot of it may leave because of this flood we have. But if you find that mixture of hydrilla and eelgrass, and there is a lot of green new hydrilla out there,
Mm-hmm.
and if you find that mixture, you're in fish. If they're not hitting, when you pull up and you find that mixture and you can't catch one, you're using the wrong thing. Just switch around because the fish are going to be there. So if you know what that mixture is, you sit there and you'll change around till you figure out what they want to eat, because the fish are going to be in that new hydrilla. That's where your best oxygen is. So if it's just plain eelgrass, yeah, you'll catch one every now and then, and sometimes you'll catch some good fish. But you find that mixture of hydrilla and eelgrass together, yeah, you're in the fish. Just figure out what they want to eat.
My normal question towards the end of one of these is if you're going fishing tomorrow, what 5 rods are you going to have on your deck? I think we already kind of know the answer to that, but I'm going to change it up just a little. I'm going to change it up just a little. I know you can't fish it, but if you were fishing the Big Bass Splash and you were going out there to catch a fish over 7 pounds after it's looking like we're going to get a little warming streak, next week.
Uh-huh.
What 3 or 4 lures would you be dead set on throwing to catch that fish?
Bull wake, bull wake, bull wake, bull wake, bull wake. That's 5. There you go.
There you go. So,
No, I definitely have bull wake tied on one of them. Mike Bucher's got a new trick shad glide bait, and I like that. I'd have
I
it on
saw one
another
of those.
one.
I hadn't bought one yet. I may have to get one.
Well, I've got some. They're nice. They are nice. If you ever get a chance to go out with me, I'll show you what they can do. But bull wake, that trick shad, definitely a chatterbait, half ounce, green pumpkin or that Santee shad color. Another bait I like to throw if I'm looking for a big one is a 5.5 inch producer swim bait on about a half or a 3/4 ounce head, depending on how deep that eelgrass is. I like a 3/4 because I know I can fish that 10, 12 foot eelgrass with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one be a swim jig, getting up in the primrose with a swim jig.
Are you running that swim bait right ticking the top of the grass, or are you keeping it up high in the water?
No, I'm letting it get down there.
Yeah.
I got the boat actually in 12, 14 feet of water in these places because I know that eelgrass is in 10, 12 feet of water.
Right.
So I'll get out there, and then that's when I'll usually use that 3/4 ounce head. If I'm fishing in an area that I know it's got some hydrilla mixed in it, then I'm gonna go to the 1/2 ounce head because it's a little bit easier to control. But John's got a real good swim bait, and it's called Producer Swim Baits, and I love fishing that thing this time of year. But it's so hard to get away from big 1 ounce traps. It's hard to get away from those things. I love throwing those big 1 ounce traps this time of year, not 8 and 10 foot.
Oh, I believe that. No,
Yeah,
and like you say, you just follow the fish up and change baits accordingly as you have to get a little shallower.
change baits accordingly. Exactly. But that bull wake, if we get warm weather and if I was fishing splash and we got warm weather, I probably wouldn't have but 2 rods on the deck. And that's one with the bull wake and one with that trick shad glide bait. That would probably be my 2 main rods to have on the deck.
That glide bait, I mean, obviously it's a slow sink. You can let it go down and fish it at kind of varying depths, but I mean, for the most part, you're working it pretty close to surface.
Yeah, yeah. Biggest part of the time you're working it close to the surface, and I work it real erratically. And I don't just barely swim it along. I work it real erratically, and that to me is I seen seems to do a lot better than just letting it slowly ease through. If you're letting it slowly come through, they're just following along. And but if I'm working that thing, reeling it fast and just jerking my rod real erratic, and I have done so much better doing it that way.
So you're using your rod, not just a reel. You're actually almost
Exactly.
jerk baiting it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I mean, just almost like a jerk bait, like twitch, pause kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do several twitches. And when I'm doing those twitches, I'm reeling also, and then
Yeah.
I'll do the pause, and then I'll go back to twitching and reeling, and I'll do the pause.
Does it swing real wide when you do that, or is it pretty tight cut when you do that?
It's pretty tight cut when you're doing it like that because you're working it fast.
What's your favorite color in that one?
Gizzard shad.
Gizzard shad. I mean,
Yep.
bone gizzard. They're all shad colored, I think. But
yeah, the bone and gizzard. That's the only 2 colors you'll see in my box. Just I don't usually use the bone until later on later on the spring, first part of summer. I'll start using that bone a lot. But right now, that gizzard shad is the main color.
good to know. There you have it.
Yeah.
Mike, I really appreciate it. If somebody wants to get in touch
Yeah.
with you to take a trip, how do they need to reach out to you?
Well, they can get to me on Facebook, go to my website, Mike Carter's Pro Guide Service, and or you could just call me 423-802-1362, whichever way you want to do it.
All righty. Well, Mike, I sure do appreciate the information, and who knows?
Yes, sir.
It may help somebody catch a big one.
I hope so. Well, thanks a lot, Pat. I appreciate you very much.
Hey,
mate.
one more thing before you go after we wrapped it up. I've been thanked a lot, and I'm going to thank you again. Thanks for helping get that rattle trap thing going back this spring.
Yes.
You and I know the whole story there. We don't have time for that, but it really turned into something big. And again, I appreciate you getting that going like you did. And
well, thanks. It was truly a blessing. It was. It started out just kind of like a brainchild to get it going. You know that yourself. Because I was talking to you about it. And then all of a sudden you get 238 boats and something, and the payout was just tremendous on it. And I still now have people that'll call and text me thanking me for that, getting that tournament going and making sure I'm doing it again next year.
Yeah, well,
and I will definitely be doing it again next year.
So. Oh yeah. It got a lot of stuff. And people want that, and whether they just do. And we got lucky on the weather that day too. So
we did. It was beautiful that day. We did.
Anyway, thank you much, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. That's pretty good info for the big bass splash coming up here. He doesn't think it's going to change a whole lot, chunking and winding and throwing a bull wake or whatever, swim bait or whatever your strength is. There's probably a way to catch a fish on that. You notice he didn't mention live scope except for folks that are, winning some tournaments using it. But you definitely don't have to have live scope to win the big bass splash because there's a lot of fish in less than 3 foot of water that will, you might be able to see them, but it won't have to, it's not necessary. So until then, next week, we'll probably have somebody come through here and do another little splash preview. I don't think Trey will be back till after that. And until then, enjoy the floating grass. We'll talk to you soon.